before us. Mr. Cowell, do you have any opening statement?
Thank you, Madam Chair. First of all, I'd like to, on behalf of my constituents, I'd like to thank the chairwoman and ranking member for holding this important hearing today and for their sustained attention to the recovery of Orleans and Jefferson parishes. I also appreciate their recognizing the significant challenges to recovery presented by certain aspects of the Stafford Act. And when we are talking about the Stafford Act, one of the questions that we are exploring today is whether we should create under the Act a separate incident level for catastrophic events. And to help us clarify what these terms may imply, I would like to tell you what Katrina did to my district. Many of the critical institutions, like Charity Hospital and basically the entire healthcare infrastructures in the hardest hit New Orleans East, have never reopened. Other basic services like police, fire and rescue, libraries, and schools were wiped away by the floodwaters and are simply today padlocked shells of buildings. In the immediate area around New Orleans, 80% of the buildings and 40% of the housing stock were damaged in some way. In my mind and in the mind of my constituents, what Katrina did to the Gulf Coast and to Orleans and Jefferson parishes was without doubt a catastrophe. After Katrina, I spent a significant amount of time talking to my constituents and also to federal officials, with Administrator Fugate, with Mr. McCarthy, about what changes need to be made to the Stafford Act. We are taking a comprehensive relook at the Stafford Act and the regulations that support it, and I would seek your support, Madam Chairwoman and Mr. Ranking Member, in these efforts. The Stafford Act is currently set up to provide recovery dollars on a project-by-project basis. For the Gulf Coast states that were hit by Hurricanes Katrina and Rita, this is not optimal due to the extent of destruction. The fact that we are nearly 4 years from these events and the states and FEMA are still arguing over doorknobs and whether a building that was flooded, gutted, and is falling down was more or less than 50% damage demonstrates this. In catastrophic or mega disasters, the state and localities need to have the flexibility to rethink and replan their recovery and hazard mitigation plans. They need to have the flexibility to decide whether rebuilding in the pre-disaster footprint is the best solution for the communities long term. What are some of the fixes that I hope to look at in regards to the Stafford Act? Legislatively, creating an incident level for catastrophes or mega disasters for which a holistic look at the community's needs would be taken. The feasibility of lump sum settlements in mega disasters like that which was legislated to respond to the disaster of September 11th. Shifting more responsibility to and thereby incentivizing states and localities to prepare better for disasters. For example, tying building codes to the amount of recovery dollars ultimately provided by the federal government. This is something that the ranking member has been working on through legislation, and I'm proud to support this. Revising the management structure of FEMA and other agencies to shift decision-making from the upper-level management where bottlenecks occurred to the staff that is on the ground and meeting with local government representatives on a daily basis. In the course of my conversations with the different parties, it has become abundantly clear to me that FEMA employees have been almost indoctrinated to believe that they are handcuffed by the Stafford Act and therefore can't come up with out-of-the-box solutions. When you have major disasters like Hurricane Katrina, we need creative thinking, but FEMA employees are allowing themselves to be mired in red tape, causing them to retreat from difficult questions and creative solutions by hiding behind the Stafford Act and what it does and does not allow. My reading of the Stafford Act is that it is an incredibly flexible piece of legislation that was always envisaged to provide a framework. The real problem is, for decades, FEMA has been layering regulations one on top of another, which is actually what is hampering FEMA employees. FEMA has restricted itself with inconsistent regulations, so much so that they can't be a partner in communities' recovery, which is what they ought to be. I am hopeful that Secretary Napolitano and Administrator Fugate will have the same sort of self-awakening about the restrictions to FEMA, and that they will fundamentally rework the regulations hampering performance. However, I want to make it clear that if we don't see real progress in freeing up the creativity and proactive thinking of FEMA employees, we will draft legislation that requires you to do so. With that, I'm looking forward to your testimonies, and I hope to work with you further in the future to look at the Stafford Act and how we can improve the cooperations of FEMA with the state and local employees. Thank you very much, Madam Chair.
Thank you, Mr. Cowell. We are very